There is a photo that tells you everything about where Meghan Markle and Netflix stand right now. In it, Meghan is laughing. Her mouth is wide open, her hand pressed to her chest, her arm wrapped around the CEO of one of the most powerful streaming companies on Earth. She looks like someone who has not a single care in the world, like everything is absolutely fine, like there is no story here. Move on. Nothing to see. Except there is a story. There are several, actually, and they all happened at the same party on the same night, and they involve a deleted photo, a dress that was not supposed to exist, a woman who was never supposed to be upstaged, and a body language expert who looked at those smiling pictures and said, "That laugh is not real." Let's go through all of it, because on the surface, this is a story about a party in Montecito, but just underneath the surface, it is a story about power, desperation, image management, and what happens when someone who needs something very badly shows up somewhere they may not entirely be wanted. To understand why this party matters, you need to know what happened in the weeks before it. In March, a major entertainment publication dropped a bombshell report. According to insiders, Netflix was done with Meghan and Harry. Done. The word they used, and this is a direct quote from the reporting, was that the couple had become exhausting to work with. The report claimed that the Netflix chief would not take calls from Meghan unless a lawyer was present on the line. It described the couple's original $60 million deal being quietly downgraded. Their lifestyle show had not been renewed for a third season. The streaming partnership with Meghan's As Ever brand had been ended. According to this report, the most lucrative deal Harry and Meghan had ever signed was collapsing quietly and messily behind the scenes. Netflix denied it, Meghan's team denied it, but the story was out there, and in Hollywood, perception is everything. Once people think you are struggling, whether you actually are or not. So what do you do when that story breaks about you? If you are Meghan Markle, you get dressed, you get in a car, and you show up to your streaming partner's party looking like you own the place. The event was a private tastemaker gathering at the Montecito home of Netflix co-CEO Ted Sarandos and his wife Nicole Avant, celebrating the launch of Beef Season 2. The guest list was curated and impressive. Katy Perry, Justin Trudeau, Orlando Bloom, Oscar Isaac, and the show's star and guest of honor, Carey Mulligan. An intimate evening, warm, low-key, very Montecito, the kind of party designed to make powerful people feel like they are just normal friends having a nice time together. And the dress code, according to multiple sources and backed up by almost every photo from the night, was black and white. Simple, clean. The palette designed to do one specific thing, make one person stand out in color. Carey Mulligan, the woman whose show everyone was there to celebrate. The BAFTA winner, the three-time Oscar nominee. Just weeks before this party, Mulligan had received a CBE from King Charles himself at Windsor Castle for services to drama, GB News. This was her moment, her color, her night. Meghan arrived in an olive green dress that closely mirrored the outfit worn by Carey Mulligan, the evening's guest of honor. The majority of attendees stuck to the black and white dress code, making Meghan one of only two guests dressed in gray-green. Let that land. In a room full of people wearing black and white, two women showed up in nearly identical shades of chartreuse green. One of them was the star of the show being celebrated, the other was Meghan Markle. Now, was it intentional? That is the question the internet has been tearing itself apart over ever since the photos dropped. Defenders of Meghan were quick to point out that chartreuse has been dubbed the it color of spring 2026, and that she could not possibly have known what Carey Mulligan was planning to wear, Tyla. One person asked, reasonably, how she could have found out in advance what color Carey's dress would be. Others pushed back hard, saying people are allowed to wear whatever they want to a party, and the criticism was manufactured. But here's where it gets complicated. Meghan almost exclusively wears beige, white, and black. She rarely chooses to wear any vibrant colors, AOL. That is not an opinion. That is a documented pattern anyone can verify by looking at the last 2 years of her public appearances. So for the one party where the entire room was wearing black and white, and where the guest of honor was already known to be wearing color throughout her press tour for this specific show, Meghan chose the one bold, vibrant, statement color available, the same one in the same shade. Coincidence is possible, it happens, but it's a very specific coincidence at a very specific moment for a woman who is famously meticulous about every public appearance she makes. At least one observer described the incident as potentially one of Meghan's biggest fashion faux pas to date. Another suggested that this dress choice was precisely why the Duchess appeared absent from the evening's group photographs. And there it is, the missing photos. Because here's what the official record of this party looks like. There are photos of Meghan with Ted Sarandos. There are photos of Meghan hugging Nicole Avant. There is the curated group shot, Meghan, Harry, Ted, and Nicole, 4 people in a line looking like old friends. But when you look at the larger group photos from the night, the official cast shots, the pictures that show the full room, Meghan is not in them. The woman whose presence at this party generated more headlines than anyone else in that house is absent from the images that everyone was supposed to walk away with. Showing up in chartreuse, radiant and impossible to miss, to a party celebrating your streaming partner's hottest new show was described by one commentator as not just a fashion choice, it was a press release with a tiered skirt. Which brings us to the body language, because while the fashion debate was going viral, an expert was looking at the photos that did exist and breaking down what they actually showed. A body language expert described Meghan's laugh with Sarandos as quite exaggerated and excessive to the point of insincerity, noting her raised eyebrows, eyes narrowed shut, and parted teeth came together to form a facial expression that suggested she had just heard the funniest joke imaginable, but didn't quite ring true. Another expert described Meghan's overall body language with Sarandos and Avant as hyper-familiar, saying it indicated there's a lot more to that friendship than meets the eye. When seen with Sarandos alone, she was described as curling her shoulder forward, as if shrinking her form. In the group photo with both couples, the expert noted Meghan leaned away from Harry, reading it as a sign she was focused on maintaining the professional relationship, that pleasing the CEO was more important to her in that moment than anything else in the room. Now, body language analysis is not science, it's interpretation, and Meghan has her defenders who will tell you that reading too much into a laugh or a posture is exactly the kind of overreach her critics are always guilty of. That is a fair point worth acknowledging, but step back from the individual details and look at the full picture. Here is what we actually know happened at this party. Netflix had just been reported, loudly, publicly, and embarrassingly, to be done with Meghan and Harry. Within days of that report, the couple announced a brand new scripted polo drama they're producing for Netflix. Then they showed up at the Netflix CEO's private home, smiling for photos, hugging his wife, looking for all the world like the last few months of negative coverage simply did not happen. Sources close to the couple confirmed they have an active production deal at Netflix, and several projects are waiting to be announced. This party was not a social occasion, it was a statement. Every image was a message. Every hug, every smile, every photo with Ted and Nicole, all of it carefully composed to communicate one thing. We are fine. We are in. We belong here. The whole thing looked very much like a carefully composed display of everything is absolutely fine. And that's what makes the dress controversy so fascinating, because if the entire point of the evening was image management, if every detail was calculated to send a specific message to the industry, then showing up in the same color as the guest of honor is the one thing that should not have happened. It's the variable that nobody can fully control the narrative around. It's the crack in an otherwise polished performance. Either Meghan didn't know, in which case it was an unfortunate coincidence at the worst possible moment, or she did know, in which case the calculation was different from what everyone assumed, and the story becomes something else entirely. What we're left with is a party that was supposed to bury a story, and instead became a bigger story than the one it was meant to replace. The Netflix rift is no longer the headline. The dress is. The missing group photos are. The laugh that experts say didn't quite reach the eyes is. The Duchess who turned up to someone else's celebration and accidentally, or not, made it about herself. And somewhere in the background, Carrie Mulligan showed up to her own party, wore her color, accepted her moment as the guest of honor, and watched all of this unfold from the other side of the room. The show premieres on April 16th. Beef, Season 2, the story of a wealthy wife whose world is quietly unraveling while she tries to keep up appearances. You genuinely could not write it better. If you want the full breakdown of how the Netflix and Meghan relationship actually stands right now, deals, projects, what's really in development, let me know in the comments and I'll dig into it for the next video. And if this is your first time here, subscribe because the stories around these two never travel in a straight line. See you in the next one!